Bees, birds, butterflies and insects all play a really important role in helping your garden to thrive.
They pollinate flowers, make edible plants fertile, and keep our ecosystem in check.
Create a habitat they'll love, and in return, they'll work hard for you. Here's how.
Create a layered garden with good ground cover and rich mulch for insects and worms to burrow in. A lush mid-layer of bushes, shrubs and flowers for bees and butterflies to nest in and feed on, and some large trees for birds to roost in. Looking at bees first, companion planting is a great place to start.
It's basically when you group together certain plants to help them thrive.
For example, adding some marigolds to your veggie bed will bring the bees in, who will then help with pollination and increase your veggie harvest. The bees will be drawn to their flowers as they like reds and yellows, blues and purples, and flowers with good landing pads or tubular shapes with nectar at the base.
Most flowers are only in bloom for a certain amount of time, so it's a good idea to keep your planting up so the bees have access to pollen and nectar throughout the year.
In summer, plant rosemary or nasturtiums. In autumn, try pansies and anemones. In winter, calendula or camellias. And in spring, some lavender and marigolds.
As a rule, try not to spray when the plants are flowering or when the bees are around, as pesticides can kill them. When you spray, try and use an organic option like pyrethrum, and only spray early in the morning or in the evening when the bees are asleep in their hive. Butterflies are even easier to keep happy. Our main butterfly in New Zealand is the monarch, and if you plant a few swan plants, you'll be sure to see loads of them in your garden. It's a great idea to plant them into pots. That way you can move them into shelter positions and manage the caterpillar population if you need to. Turn over the leaves to check for eggs. You only really want 2 to 3 caterpillars per plant, otherwise they're not going to have enough to eat. And once they've hatched, pop a makeshift shelter over the top of them. Use some bamboo cane, something like this. Place some netting over the top. Just secure it down. It's going to help keep the cocoons nice and safe. Just use some little pegs or something like that. Keep that nice and tight. Try not to touch the caterpillars and the butterflies as they are really fragile.
From egg to butterfly takes about a month and a half. In spring, female monarchs lay eggs on the underside of a leaf which take between 5 and 14 days to hatch. Once hatched, the caterpillars eat non-stop for about 3 weeks, growing in size. Next, the pupa stage, where they'll spin themselves into cocoons, and after 2 to 3 weeks, the butterfly emerges. They'll usually come out mid-morning and will wait for their wings to harden before they fly off. Following their life cycle is a great way to get kids involved in the garden.
To attract butterflies or bees, one of the easiest things you can do is to plant a wildflower mix like this. It's got the seed, feed and mulch. The seeds have all been chosen for New Zealand's soils and climate and have staggered flowering to provide a constant food source. To plant, simply prep the soil, get a little fork or something similar, rough it all up a little bit. Just shake straight out of the packet. And just scatter that around. And then we just water it in. It's as easy as that. When it comes to insects, a lot of people don't realise there are hundreds of beneficial ones in the garden and only a handful of harmful ones.
Ladybirds, for example, eat aphids, so they're great to have around. Like bees, they also feed on pollen, so flowers like marigolds will bring them in. Herbs like dill and fennel attract pests, so adding them to the garden means your ladybirds will have heaps of food to eat. Moving on to the lower level of the garden, add mulch around the base of your plants for worms and other good bugs.
Leaf litter from pruning and mulching your own native tree waste is absolutely perfect for that. And lastly, there are a few easy things you can do to get more bird life into your garden as well.
Birds love water, so a bird bath is a great idea. It provides drinking water and bathing, so keep it shallow and clean it out regularly. Grab a feeder and choose a wild bird seed mix for the type of bird you want to attract, or pop a nectar feeder in a tree if you're keen on tuis. Think about your planting. Native plants attract native birds, providing them with the right mix of food. They also love flowers because they produce sugar and protein, so like with the bees, try to have something flowering year-round.
When looking after the garden, we often forget about the wildlife that live there too. But if you plant the right things, the rest is easy as. And make sure you subscribe to the Mitre YouTube channel for more great content, or click here to watch more.